I would also like to thank for the invitation and also to thank Marina for the lecture. I will try the processes that Marina condensed on the political level, try maybe to go one level lower and try to explain maybe some processes that how this was maybe interact and happened on the some institutional level. That's why I would like to explain how this internationalization of the state as some central institution that it's regulating the relations inside of the society. So its internationalization under the conditions of neoliberalism brought these effects that Marina explained and give them some strong acceleration also. So first maybe I will start with this quotation from Ludwig von Mises, which is showing us that talking about freedom is not always very clear what we are talking about. It is not only showing us that we have various thinking about various freedoms, but like political or economic freedom, but also it is a question about various thinking about the freedom. Ludwig von Mises was one of the most prominent economists of actually Austrian school that was very popular at before Second World War, and it was here in Vienna developing and promoting self-regulated market ideas, and it was based on the methodological individualism that is denying the social component, and it's mostly that social phenomena are actually a result of only of individual actions. After 30s, the events of the history put these ideas on the garbage of the history, and but they came back and raised again in 70s inside of the debates how to transform world economy in terms of to create a new free world, free in terms of free flows for capital. And their ideas may become also very good with Margaret Thatcher explanation. Well, you know, there is no such a thing as a society. There are only men, women, and their families. So this is this, and the second thing was her slogan, "Freedom to buy." What was under this was leading the privatization of housing in Britain. So when we are talking about neoliberalism, we know all that Margaret Thatcher is the figure in Europe for neoliberalization of the space. And if we are talking about the neoliberalism, we are of course talking about mostly freedom and liberalization. About these two concepts. The whole neoliberalism is based on these two concepts, and even in the name of these two concepts, today the wars are leading, the restructuring is happening. Even George Bush attacked Iraq with the words, "A peaceful world of growing freedom serves to American interests." So the freedom is somehow the central concept for distribution of neoliberalism, and this is not something what is happening right now. It is something what has a long history already. We can talk also already about the history, and since the structural crisis in 70s that happened, this shift between class forces was made in a very strong sense in favor of capital. We have to know that this free market idea, didn't come as a repetition of Belle Epoque period, but it came also in a qualitatively different geopolitical and geoeconomic world, and it came also as a reaction on failures that were historically made. It came also as a as a reaction on this specific institutional landscape that was produced during these safe times of welfare state. This what also Marina said of biopolitical institutional arrangements that also gave some special power also to neoliberalism to spread around the globe. Neoliberalism we have to understand mostly as a political strategy. It is much too easy to say that it's some economical phenomenon. It is actually a very profound change of politics and mostly of institutional restructuring. This is very important to have in mind because neoliberalism is constantly uneven, and that is exactly because of heritage, because it's based on the heritage institutional landscape, which was also produced. We have to know that till 70s, the biopolitical and welfare state produced actually very uneven capitalism. During this golden age of West world was enabled the capitalization and of the whole so-called decolonial world. This was also the base for neoliberalism to stay uneven, to produce, even to empower also this uneven development of the world that we have now, this racial white West world that is exploiting actually the all other parts of the world. And also the quality of neoliberalism is that it is institutionally hybrid, so it's occurring in all parts of the Europe in a very various ways. Something what maybe it will be said in Europe that is some special social politics can occur in some other part of the world as neoliberalism through completely different mechanism. So it is all the time trying to form and to accommodate to the specific social environment that was where it's occurring. But in effect, it's actually three processes that are mostly strong, and this is the market-based competition, the commodification of social life, and the mobilization of financial instruments. These are three processes, very typical neoliberalistic processes that are actually intertwined and are producing the instability inside of societies where it's occurring. The neoliberalism, the basic why we are talking about the freedom and liberalization, because it is going under the notion to free. To remove all barriers, to free the world to liberalize the world for mostly commodity, money, and capital markets, to make it to free also workforce to become mobile, and what is also very important, this advocate also very good the acceleration of communication networks. And what is very important is also to free the production from the territorial barriers. What we see, this global chain of the production that is today orchestrated under the multinational corporation. It is showing how actually this freedom and liberalization came embedded in all kind of segments of social reproduction also. So this flexibilization that is on all levels gave also the made also the change of regulation between nation states and international organizations, and it also changed the way of regulation. If we are witnessing in this welfare state, biopolitical context, we are facing still with some nation state, because it is produced still enough of margins for economic and socio-political actions of the state. In a neoliberalized world, these margins are quite cut, and the nation state, because of this intensified international competition, they are changing from inside. They are changing their position, and the governmentality is actually going intertwined between nation states and international organization. By international organization, we know we are talking about all the organizations that we know now: IMF, World Bank, OECD, WTO, and very special institution, European Union. These all agencies were actually the product. They were established after the Second World War, so they were alive also in the time of welfare state. But with neoliberalization of space, they are leaving their intergovernmental function, and they are also becoming independent. And that's why we should not only think about them as some agreement organization, but it's actually they are becoming agencies with their own politics and with their own dynamics. And they are overtaking also all this choreography or organization of neoliberalism and leading these processes. This we can see also, for example, in World Trade Organization, who is producing GATS, who is IMF, who is organizing the debt in solving the debt crisis. That it's also the main institute for neoliberalizing politics. And we see that, for example, European Union. In European Union, especially, we see how actually the governmentality of European Union is having its own logic, and it's not anymore just as a consensus of states. This we saw now for CETA, when it was how this was very strong showed that actually this consensus between states is actually just a show and somehow performance for the publicity also, and to keep this democratic rule. So this, but still now we don't have this nation state. In spite, it is its role, its change. It's not disappearing, but it's changing the character. But it is still very significant in this, because the state is as an institution is actually the pivotal and the central institution, and it's integral part of the capitalism for the reproduction. Capitalism cannot also reproduce without such institutions. And also capitalism is also very important to have this the existence of plurality of states, the existence of plurality of diverse spaces that are actually intersect and overlapping. This is very important for the inner also dynamic of capitalism, and also for the globalization and in global capitalism, if we are talking about this. So this the state, because the state has to be also, this is the specific of the state as an institution. The state has to be understood also as a materialization, as a material condensation of competing and antagonistic class relations that are taking the shape of heterogeneous network of agencies that are all the time in some conflict. And by this I mean that to cover this somehow class relations, this social antagonism, it is transformed into agencies that is mostly we are understand as some state apparatuses. This we see, for example, very simple. If in welfare state we are all the time seeing it's much bigger importance of Ministry for Labor, for social defense, for social affairs, for culture. All these ministries are somehow getting in the shadow when the neoliberalization is coming. Now mostly we are seeing on television financial ministers, we see defense ministers and inner minister. Now and this is this clash between agencies actually seeing, but actually what they are also covering is that it's also the struggle that is inside of society. It's covering the societal movements, and with this taking off power from the labor, the agencies that are advocating for the labor class, for people, let's say, and giving more power to institutions that are advocating for capital is orchestrated through the state. And also this neoliberalism and globalization wouldn't be possible without state. Because one thing is the decisions on the international level, when, for example, GATS is saying to liberalize all the fields of social life, like culture, like education, like health, that were mostly before protected from the commercialization and from marketization. But this should be done through the system, through the state, because she is regulating this on the very concrete level. So, and the biggest shifts happened also inside of it. The state is somehow between this is between the demands of demands of international environment, and this is through this competition. It is playing all the time this locational politics to attract capital, to make this we are all the time now, and also European Union is in this case we have to find some new investments, how to attract capital for investments, and on the other side it has to respond on what is going on on specific territories. That's why also state is not it's not something fixed. It is something movable, and it's very much and it's very much conditioned by this what is going on in society. That's why it matters what we people are doing. That's why we cannot say ever that it doesn't matter, that whatever we are doing, whatever we are protesting, doesn't have any effect. I think this matters exactly because of this, because the state is an institution that it's actually conditioned by societal actions. What is true is that with a neoliberal shift, we are not anymore we are losing the politics as a space for some conflictual societal action, and the policy making is just becoming more political management. And that through the fast-moving silver bullet policies and these models of politics, in engineering politics, what good works, the political elites try to overtake all this policy making from the people. And this is also the problem that it is that the institutions of liberal democracy are eroding and under the pressure of neoliberalism. And since we are getting these technocratic governments, we see it is becoming this, what Marina said, necropolitics. And on the other side, I would say also we are becoming, we are getting in the process of desocialization also, that actually societies are closing in small subcultures, interest groups, communities that are more and more divided between each other. And this is the problem of this producing this policy making as a political management. Because right now we see how politicians are also saying, they are acting also like managers. We have to fix this, we have to fix this, we have to. They're also the diction today, this debt crisis. States were from all the time always was a debt. That was something completely normal. But right now, politicians are trying to show us that that when state is in debt, is like like person when it's in debt. What is completely not comparable, and that's why they are doing this management like we have to fix the debt on the expense of fixing the providing a normal social life for all. This is also so. This has very problematic, can get very problematic consequences, and in this. Which Marina explained, and I will not do it again, but here I would just maybe say in this way that this post-Fordistic neoliberal state is not a state of exception or some exceptional state, but its features have more and more forms of some authoritarian statism through very technical discourses. And here, this question about legality, if we know that legality is constructed through the state mechanism, is coming into question from this state, and it demands some rethinking about the illegality and also the right to disobey the legality. So I will finish here and give word to Vincent.